this year, so far, we have had 5 cases of dengue reported to the Ministry of Health. Therefore, we are not currently having an unusual amount of cases or an outbreak.
That's right. There is no outbreak of dengue on the island. But if you're experiencing a combination of headache, muscle, bone, and joint pain, nausea, a rash, or swollen glands, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Our program starts right now.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Search for its breeding sites and destroy them. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, January 29. $100 million is being used to increase the Jamaica Tourist Board's marketing and advertising campaign for the tourism sector. Cabinet gave the approval Thursday as part of government's comprehensive plan to limit the impact of the state of public emergency declared in St. James on January 18. At a meeting with stakeholders operating within the parish on Saturday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said that despite the risks to the country's image, the St. James operation was necessary.
I never expected that calling a state of emergency would be an easy thing to do, that there will be some amount of fallout, but we calculated based upon past experience, based upon assessing Jamaica's standing. We calculated the downside risk, and the downside risk of doing nothing is greater.
Following Saturday's meeting, the security forces have made changes to the operational hours for businesses within the parish. Clubs and fast food restaurants will now be closed at 2 a.m., tavern operators should close at 10 p.m., and service stations at 11 p.m. Supermarkets, grocery shops, and stores will now be closed at 8 p.m. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is recommitting his government to restoring public safety and the rule of law, while dismantling the ecosystem of crime in St. James. While on a tour of the parish this weekend, Mr. Holness visited the Freeport and Barnett Street police lockups, where persons held in the operation were being detained. He met with the families of those detained and Public Defender Arlene Harrison and said he expected the processing of detainees to be much faster in the coming days. Mr. Holness, who also visited a number of communities, expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the security forces during the state of emergency. While on his tour in the Salt Spring community, the security forces recovered an AK-47 and several rounds of ammunition. The Prime Minister urged citizens to call the JDF hotline 837-8888 and tell what they know.
You now have this opportunity where you can share information with a police force and with our military that will act in your interest, that will protect you, that will ensure safety for your community. Give us the information.
The Ministry of National Security has received a $42.7 million performance bond from the company contracted to supply 200 vehicles to the Jamaica Constabulary Force. A statement from the ministry says the payment was made by the insurer on behalf of O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental Limited. The performance bond represents 10% of the $427 million contract awarded to O'Brien's, which had only delivered 30 of the vehicles at the end of 2017. Another 66 were being held on the wharf as the company had failed to pay the general consumption and special consumption taxes for import. In a report to Parliament on December 5, National Security Minister Robert Montego announced that the government may claim the performance bond and use it to pay the outstanding import taxes so the 66 vehicles could be delivered to the police force.
The vehicles are on the wharf. The police need the vehicles. We have $42 million for the supplier. There is one option. We can use that money to pay the But it wouldn't be the taxpayers' money, it would be the suppliers' money. And he's responsible to pay the duties anyhow.
With the bond now collected, a release from the ministry says it continues to protect the taxpayers of Jamaica. The statement also points out that the JCF was provided with 430 vehicles in 2017, while another 114 were repaired under a special project. With these acquisitions, the ministry says none of the 190 stations across Jamaica should be without at least one police vehicle today. The Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology is to fast-track a program aimed at replacing open flame light sources in homes with solar lights. The program will target vulnerable rural and inner-city communities and is being led by the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica. The directive to expedite its implementation comes from Prime Minister Andrew Holness in response to a deadly fire in his West Central St. Andrew constituency Friday night, which claimed the lives of 3 toddlers. The Prime Minister says his office will be ensuring that shelter and the relevant supplies are found for those who were made homeless by the fire. In the meantime, he has given instructions for an audit to be done of all households in his constituency to determine which depend on open light sources so that they can be urgently replaced. Government is looking to develop the seaside community of Buff Bay in Portland into a coffee gastronomy destination. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says it's the perfect spot for coffee lovers to enjoy a tour of coffee farms leading from the Blue Mountains into the community. He says this designation would be an opportunity for entrepreneurship for the locals.
Where the experience can be realized in all its forms and we can create that cottage industry with cafes and with various kinds of offerings connected directly to coffee.
Minister Bartlett was speaking at the recent launch of the Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee Festival. The event is scheduled for March 23 to 25 at the Jamaica Defence Force Training Ground in Newcastle. And finally, the Ministry of Health is encouraging individuals to take precaution against influenza or the flu and to see a doctor if the infection worsens. Acting Director of Health Promotion and Protection in the ministry, Dr. Beverly Wright, says persons with the flu should take paracetamol, rest, drink lots of fluids, and eat healthy.
And if you have complications, which could then be secondary infections because your immune system is weakened and you might get a secondary pneumonia or other upper respiratory or lower respiratory tract infections, go to the doctor. Do not stay at home and self-medicate when you are obviously getting worse.
In the meantime, Principal Medical Officer and National Epidemiologist Dr. Karen Webster-Carr says the ministry's surveillance report shows that the flu season is exhibiting normal and below normal levels of influenza.
Our weekly report, when we look from 2017, the latter part of 2017, we are below the seasonal threshold for influenza, except for the age group of the over 60. That group went into their season in December of 2017 and continues to be in seeing what would be expected, a seasonal amount.
Doctors Webster-Carr and Wright were speaking at a recent JIS think tank. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Don't make diseases spread. Wash your hands with soap and water instead. Wash them regular or use a hand sanitizer. Make sure the germs them dead. Touching your eyes or your mouth or your nose. Wash your hands before you do things like those. After you use the bathroom before preparing food, come on, wash your hand them clean.
Get an update on the major happenings in the office of the Prime Minister next.
Prime Minister satisfied with handling of state of public emergency, holds first quarterly press briefing for the year, and pledges support for logistics sector. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Cabinet has approved $100 million for the Jamaica Tourist Board to increase advertising and marketing for the tourism sector. The move is part of government's comprehensive plan to limit the impact of the state of public emergency declared in St. James on January 18. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the announcement Saturday as he met with stakeholders in the parish. To ensure that businesses in the parish remain viable, the security forces have made changes to operational hours in the parish. During his tour in St. James, the Prime Minister visited a number of communities as well as the Freeport and Barnett Street police lockups. While there, he met with the families of detainees and Public Defender Arlene Harrison. During his visit to the Salt Spring community in the parish, the security forces recovered an AK-47 and several live rounds of ammunition. Mr. Holness expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the security forces.
I am very heartened to see that they have been very meticulous, that they are following a process, and indeed, where the law may not be detailed or clear, that they have put in place their own processes to ensure that their actions are above board, can be reviewed, and that there is a system of accountability.
Prime Minister Holness also used the opportunity to urge the public to continue to call 837-8888 and tell what they know. Also on Saturday, Prime Minister Holness directed the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology to fast-track a planned program aimed at replacing open flame light sources in homes with solar lights. The program, being led by the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, is geared towards vulnerable rural and inner-city communities. The Prime Minister's announcement follows a deadly fire in West Central St. Andrew, which claimed the lives of 3 toddlers Saturday morning. Mr. Holness expressed sadness at the incident and said his office would be seeking to ensure the safety and comfort of the survivors. On Friday, Prime Minister Holness toured developments in and around Falmouth Trelawney. The upgrades to make the town the gem of the Caribbean are being spearheaded by the Port Authority of Jamaica.
We want to create enclave investments. We want to make the entire town a place where the locals can enjoy world-class facilities in an intelligently planned environment, and visitors can also come and enjoy. So we have taken these master plans, which you would have seen presented in the meeting, and we are now bringing them into reality. The government supports and endorses the idea, the mission, the vision of creating an orderly port community, and we will support you with the regulation and the legislation necessary to ensure that it happens.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness reiterating the government's commitment to the shipping and logistics industry. He was speaking at Thursday's launch of Kingston Wharves Limited's total logistics facility. Connected to 40 ports around the globe, the 160,000 square foot facility is a one-stop shop for warehousing and logistics and is the largest complex on the island.
I'm optimistic, and I'm not just hopeful, but I am working towards making sure that 2018 is a better year than 2017.
And with that commitment, Mr. Holness unveiled plans to build on the foundation laid last year. At Wednesday's quarterly press briefing, the Prime Minister said youth employment would be increased under the HOPE program and the National Service Corps. He said infrastructure works were being undertaken as well as reforms to the housing sector and social protection of the most vulnerable. On the matter of security,
the state of emergency is not just targeted to the person pulling the trigger. It is targeted to every single player who forms a node in this network of criminal enterprise that is now a growing and thriving ecosystem, and we must destroy it.
The Prime Minister also insisted that plans were in place to safeguard the human rights of persons detained under the state of emergency in St. James.
I'm monitoring the reports. I've seen where there are complaints, and the government will respond.
Tuesday night saw Prime Minister Holness praising the Jamaica Stock Exchange JSE on its stellar performance in 2017. The JSE's main markets listing yielded returns averaging 50%, while the junior market averaged 43.9%.
It shows that there is confidence in the economy, as was shown, particularly business confidence in the last survey that was done. It shows that there is an appetite for risk and that there is capital for businesses to invest.
Before that, Mr. Holness was in Parliament announcing the Port Authority of Jamaica's plans to recover payments made to 14 former executives. The money was paid as a discretionary benefit, but breached government guidelines as the executives had already received gratuity payments. Moving to recover the funds is part of recommendations from a July 2016 Auditor General report into activities at the Port Authority. Mr. Holness says two of the former executives challenged the matter in the Supreme Court, but it was dismissed on November 30 last year.
The recently retired executives have filed an appeal against the court's decision. No date has been set for the hearing of the appeal. In the circumstances, unless and until the Court of Appeal makes a different ruling, the Port Authority and the government will be guided by the decision of the Supreme Court.
And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. We return next time with the latest news coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Oh God, I really wish I could retire right now. It's high time I start my own business.
Well, honey, don't you think you should apply to the early retirement program? Look how long we are talking about that.
You know, you're right.
The SERP is for eligible government employees between 50 and 59 years old. Speak with your HR department or see the press for details. Deadline is February 16. Apply now.
We Jamaicans are a hard-working set of people, and we at the JIS know this. That's why after a hard day's work, you can simply pop onto our website, jis.gov.jm, and be in the know with government news and information. JIS, your information hub.
It's a few days before the start of the 2018 Reggae Month celebrations. This year's staging is being held under the theme Peace, Love, Reggae. Get the genesis on this great art form, which we celebrate today. If reggae can ever be edged to a set place, then 13 Brentford Road is its home. It was here at Studio One in 1968 that Rocksteady briefly went back 20 years, married the folk rhythms of Mento, and gave birth to reggae.
Up to 8, 6, then reggae.
The guitar led the reggae music orchestra, and the bass maintained the melodic patterns in the background. It is interesting to note that even though the fusion would change the course of local music history forever, it was to be one of its most celebrated strokes of luck.
No, I didn't really want to give out this piece of information, but since we're at it, I won't be mean. Clement Dad brought a piece of machinery to the studio for about a year. It was sitting there. And no one knew exactly what to do with it. And so they hooked it up one day and decided to implement it. And they discovered it was a tape delay. And so they hooked it into the machine and they started doing it into the recording. So when they put the guitar sound through the tape delay, it comes back saying that chick, 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 chick. The rest of studios hearing this recording out, they thought it was the guitar making that and just copied that, and that was the birth of reggae music.
Jackie Mitu invited Larry Marshall to try out on the new sound. The experiment yielded Nanny Goat and Baby Tell Me Why. But it was Toots and the Maytals, Do the Reggae, that christened the music form forever. Reggae would deliver dance crowds from the sluggish rocksteady beat. The people needed a change in pace. Reggae upped the tempo. Reggae turned up the heat on some of the social and economic challenges that the people were facing. It premiered as the voice of the people. reggae was a potent messenger for the Rastafari philosophy, which single-handedly cemented the music form as a cornerstone of Jamaican culture. Bob Marley was one of them who took to the music and the teachings. Marley had been around from the ska era. In 1961, he and a couple of his brethren, Peter Tosh and Bunny Livingston, formed the Rude Boys, which later became known as the Wailers. The teachings were often put to music in either Sir Coxson's Studio One or Duke Reid's Treasure Isle recording studios. The recording sessions overflowed with free-spiritedness and an abundance of talent. Hits were made by ear.
Studio One happens to be the station.
Studio One is widely regarded as the mecca of reggae music.
Studio One is called the University of Reggae Music. And as an artist, if you didn't work your way through that university, you would not be a complete artist.
This is the Motown of the Caribbean. Everything started right here, so right now you have to give a lot of respect to Mr. Dodd because he had a very good ear for music.
The local music industry learned the rudiments of music distribution as early as the 1940s, when English fans showed a willingness to buy its R&B covers. When American rhythm and blues were hard to come by, sound system owners Duke Reid and Sir Coxsone Dodd got artists like Stanley Motto to make their own. With the advent of a global village through the economic, social and political phenomenon called globalization, it is now beyond one's mental facets, where this world-shaking cultural mystique known to humanity as simply reggae will take Jamaica, land we love. Whithersoever it goes, we go.
Stand up and get in the race.
I can become the master of my destiny.
Step up your stride, make we work like a harder. Do it like Veronica, more than a supper.
We can rise above the challenges and shine.
Was with passion in your heart. Make a plan and stop all the idling. You think I saw? We reach out the edging. I can, you can. Like our Olympians, every Jamaican can.
Reggae is a viable global business that rakes in millions of dollars annually for the country. So for persons interested in getting in on this sector, check this next feature.
There's a quote from recording artist Erykah Badu, who once said, "The music business is motivated by money. Music is motivated by energy and feelings." What say you?
The business of music now is to take all of that and turn it into making money, you know, as blatant as that.
This is Career Talk. I'm Kerry. Today we're discussing music management and more. Welcome.
They get the fame, top the charts, collect the awards, are recorded in the annals of history for speaking to the multidimensional spectrum of human emotions and experiences through the power of music. But the difference between them and the far greater number of musical unknowns is very often in the management.
The Eptones, Ken Booth, Delroy Wilson, Alton Ellis, I mean, you name them, they came through my hands at some stage or another. I took Dennis to England in '74, the first time he toured. He was just about 17.
Junior Lincoln is one of a large and growing group of people who have merged a love for the melodic creation called music with a keen understanding of human behavior and a sharp business mind to make a living.
Some of the best artists in the world we don't know anything about. You can be the greatest artist in the world, and if people don't hear you, how are they going to know? And how are you going to be heard? It takes management. Music management is kind of complex.
But it comes down to one thing: overseeing the business affairs of musicians.
There's two sorts of management of an artist. I mean, the personal manager will look at how they invest their money, how they do all of that sort of thing. The other side now, which is the professional manager of the artist's career.
If you are looking to join this career field, be prepared to handle just about every aspect of an artist's career.
It is not something that you can go to school and learn. You know, it's something you learn over a period of time with experience.
But school can't hurt. In fact, there are schools here in Jamaica and abroad offering degree programs in music business or a straightforward business field that you can merge with your knowledge of the industry. Whether you begin with formal training or not, getting started in this career is tough. One route is to cultivate a relationship with an up-and-coming artist you admire and begin to manage that person, create an effective street team, and have the artist grow. Then there's another option.
You find a lot of big managers today, especially overseas, started with a company, and they would have maybe 2 or 3 artists under their portfolio. So you learn your craft there, but you have this big company behind you that you can rock back at.
Whatever in you use, remember this is not a job that will keep you confined to a desk or any other static location. You go where the business or the artist goes. And this is not a 9-to-5 gig.
No, it's the opposite of a 9-to-5 job because you're on the job all the time.
And it's a job that is in demand, a growth field as some would call it.
What you have to keep in touch with is the change. The changes that's come about in the business and continually doing so.
There are some other intangibles to consider.
Temperament is important. You know, it's cool when you have to be cool. Most of the time you have to be cool, but you have to be firm when you have to be firm. It takes man management.
It means navigating the many moods of artists, plus all the people around them.
I think we all know that people within the arts are a bit sometimes not so easy to deal with, for obvious reasons, you know. Very moody, you know, can be very strong in their thoughts and vision and whatever else. You know, there's got to be trust. There's got to be confidence, a whole lot of confidence in the management opinion and direction of that artist.
The music manager must also understand how to navigate the transition from an unknown artist to someone with a following and further a national or international career.
Once you get there, a very important part is to stay there. And management is very crucial to that because it's not just music anymore. You know, it's music plus.
It's hard of my behavior, say I'm a silver. When will I see you again? When I don't call you pest
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
Original.
And that's our show. Be sure to keep the link. Email us, jamaicamagazine@gis.gov.jm. Visit our website, jis.gov.jm, and follow us on social media by using the links now on screen. On behalf of the entire team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.